phone started jumping, what a day. Swear to God I need it, now I can't afford to wait. I just had a fan hit me up from Kuwait. Told him this would happen and we not a minute late.
What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Fully Unscripted. As always, Kash Daniel, Tod Lanter, Brandon Arve. Welcome into the Players Lounge. We don't have a little LED thing here that says it yet, but I promise you we're working on it. But yeah, we're working on that. You want to say anything? Or you just want me to do this interview intro all by myself?
All by yourself.
You're going to leave me with like, hey, you know what? You be the one with the the entertainment side of things and be a little more charismatic, and then you're just going to be just monotone, just chilling. Like I need energy.
You're the man of the people.
We got a lot to talk about. That's why I need energy from you, dog.
I got you here.
We got NFL playoffs to talk about. We got Kentucky basketball and Big Z's debut. I know a lot of Kentucky fans are proud about that and happy about that. We got a couple interviews too. Ladies and gentlemen, joining us today, one former Kentucky Wildcat that is forever former, one that was former, left, went to two different stops, and then came back to the University of Kentucky. First off, let's welcome in former Kentucky basketball player, Sam Malone. Hello, Sam.
Thank you for having me.
The wave.
And beside him, the man who I said left Kentucky, came back. We're proud to have him back. Glad to have him back. Ladies and gentlemen, Beau Allen.
Oh, thank you for having me.
I didn't realize we have him hidden behind your jersey.
And I didn't realize that I'm the only one doing a golf clap. Thank you, guys. Brandon, hopefully we can put in some, some audience noise in there. So, yeah. But anyways, we got a lot to talk about. NFL divisional rounds, NFC, AFC championships are set. We got Kentucky basketball to talk about. So we'll get all into it right here, right now. And this podcast shall begin right about now. So, Todd, I need you to wake.
I got you.
And just because we have little ears in here, we don't have. Hey, Sammy.
He's got you tuned out.
We got the earmuffs on. Mental earmuffs. I love it. Can you please, this is a team effort,
So
I feel like I'm talking to myself.
I feel that I'm getting old because I used so much of my energy on Saturday that I'm still recovering on Monday.
I feel like you're getting old, motherfucker.
But yeah,
you are old.
Big Z, dude. I mean,
buddy,
what an interest.
Buddy, I'm sitting there at Lex Live, by the way. Great job for you and Angelo at the on the pregame show.
Dio came, after doing podcast last week, came on with us on the pregame.
Yeah, he did.
Killed it.
He did, and he did. I didn't hear it, but he
killed it.
You guys did great. So I'm sitting there, obviously, watching the divisional round with Ravens and Texans, and then Ivan Drago, basically who Big Z is. He's Ivan Drago that can do behind the back passes and shoot 3-pointers. So the only time I'll ever root for an Ivan Drago. So
didn't know that he could do that.
I didn't know that either.
I knew it was in his arsenal, but I wasn't aware that Cal was going to let him bring that out of the bag right from the jump. I
didn't either, but I thought he was just a shot blocker. Then I saw the behind the back pass, and everybody went nuts. Well, he got and everything.
They cleared him the day of, right? So we didn't even know. I mean, Sam and I still have a decent pulse on the program. I didn't know whether he was going to play, and if he was going to be on a minute restriction. He's been practicing with the team other than when he went home for Christmas for that short period of time. So he's conditioned ready, but there's a difference between being conditioned in practice and conditioned in the game because those first couple minutes take a lot out of you real fast.
Let's get to the point. Is he the best player in college basketball? Because
I think he is.
He might be.
I think he is.
He might be. I don't know. We have a small sample size, but it's a crazy sample size.
It was at least the best opening game I've ever seen from anybody.
I mean, you even had him hit him.
Kentucky.
He even hit him with the Jordan shrug. Like this shit's easy.
Second shot.
He's going back down the court. Like, this is exactly what you guys have been missing.
Yeah.
So give me the ball.
So he started with, you mentioned the block. Started with the block.
Yeah. And then he had the behind the back pass.
And Rupp Arena go nuts. They're like, that's what we got you here for. Then he comes down, weak side or post entry passes. He's cutting across the lane, weak side behind the back, on target, wide open three from Antonio. I didn't even have to watch that basket go in. Nobody did. You knew that was down. And then he comes down, hits a three. They called that one a long two. His foot was on the line for the second shot. Did it two more times. I think it was all in the first 10 minutes of him being in the ball game. And he came in right at the 16-minute timeout, right at the under 16 timeout. So Cal threw him in there from the jump and made the exact type of impact that we hoped he would make. And I really don't think it's just a fluke. He acted like this is what I'm supposed to do. It's my job.
Yeah, I mean, the shots were crazy that he made, but just watching him on defense, like the pick and roll defense, which we struggled with, the rebounding that we struggled with a little bit. Forget the points. We're already the number one team in the country in points. If he's able to provide what he's able to provide on defense and move his feet and block shots, it's going to get real crazy.
Yeah. It's his active. I mean, it wasn't just like so often when you talk about a 7-footer and he's listed at 7'3". I don't know if he's actually 7'3", but that's a big boy, or listed at 7'2", I guess. But those guys are lugs in the paint, right? They run like they got concrete shoes on. He was moving and active and talking. Yeah, and you don't get that kind of guidance and leadership normally from that position.
Even for a skinny guy, though, if you look at his legs, they're tree trunks.
Yeah.
Like he got pushed off the block one time. It was in the first 20 seconds. So he probably was just like, oh, I'm at college basketball now.
Yeah.
I'm ready to play.
I mean, even that one basket later, I think it was in the second half. Actually, I know it was in the second half, where he got it in the paint. He was like right under the rim, and he turned around and was like, "You're not even gonna nobody's even gonna put a body on me." Okay, and just jumps up and puts his elbows on the rim. That's a specimen with any team. But as we've talked about so often on this podcast and on the pregame show, what Kentucky coaches defensively, the way Cal coaches defense. We're okay with you beating us off the dribble. Like, we don't want a straight line drive where we can't allow help side to get there, but we want to run you off the 3-point line and send you into the trees. The thing we were missing for the first 8 games is we had no big men in the paint. We were missing all 3 7-footers. So 21 feet of length and space and rim protection missing in the paint. The way that they've been coached and playing throughout the offseason and leading into the early part of this season is let them get in there. Like, we don't want to just give up a straight line drive to the rim, but if they get in there, we have rim protectors. We're blocking shots, we're altering shots, we're crashing the boards, and we're off and running. Now we've got all 3 back, and a guy like that moves his feet the way he does, rim protects the way he does, he's active with both hands, he's not just a one-handed shot blocker, creates an entirely different dynamic on the defensive end in the way that even the guards can think, and we're already pretty phenomenal on-ball defenders. So it opens up a way we can play a lot different and much more in tune with the way Cal wants to coach.
And then added to the fact that, on the other end of the court, that you got a 7-footer who can pull up from anywhere around the key, inside, out, doesn't really matter. And you have a 100% confidence he can make those shots. He's proven that he can make those shots. I'd feel pretty damn good.
Well, if I'm
Coach Cal, just sitting there going,
knowing
that I had that guy.
14-1 odds for them to win a title. Like, that's a steal.
Hammer it.
Yeah.
Hammer it.
I'd hammer it
Even further than that, too, though, when you talk about him stepping out and hitting threes, like the average fan is going to hear that and think like, oh, great, like our 7-footer can be a threat from the outside. But the problems that causes on the defensive end for the opponent is insurmountable. Now they have to have a guy, they either have to come up with a scheme where they pre-switch something to get help on a perimeter defender to get over there and take that 3-point basket away or look away. But the other option they have is to let their 5-foot or 7-footer, the 5-man, come out and try to defend him on the perimeter, which he can't do. And if he can, it opens up the other side of the floor for the guards to get in and attack the paint because now they have no rim protection. So it changes the schematics and the approach on both ends of the floor. Far different than anybody else we've got. And remember, we still got Aaron Bradshaw. We still got, Ugo. We got plenty of threats outside of him. He just changes the way we can play so much.
Life became a lot easier for every single player on the court in Kentucky. And he's kind of a mix between like Jokic and Wemby. Kind of Porzingis-like.
Yeah.
But, he is the prototype NBA stretch 5, stretch 4 right now, and I think he's up to like 9 in some draft boards.
Yeah,
like when he was at number 70 before. So these NBA scouts were just like, let me just see this guy in a real game.
Mm-hmm.
I said to my buddy, I said, within 30 seconds of this game, we're gonna know if he's the real deal or if he's just okay.
Yeah, it's just blatantly obvious. The guy can absolutely ball, and no wonder it took him so long to get cleared because he is a damn pro. I mean, the guy is already a pro. He plays like a pro.
Yeah.
He approaches the game like a pro.
Just how, just going back to that pass he made was just so nonchalant. Like, he's done that literally a million times.
Yeah.
And in that sort of competition.
It's not something he thought about.
No.
Right? That was reactive.
That was just like muscle memory. Like riding the bike. Just like, oh, okay, cool. Boom. Back behind the back pass to the corner for a 3. Like, it's going to be fun to watch that dude play.
There was one play where Rob Dillingham got the steal. He was on the ground. He threw it up to Big Z. And you look at Reed Shepherd behind Big Z being like, give me the ball, we'll push it. and Big Z just takes 3 dribbles, pushes up to Reed, and he scores. So he's not even, he has that type of awareness that like almost like a guard has, where I get this ball, I get a rebound, I'm not looking behind me to throw it to a player, I'm pushing the ball, and it's gonna be crazy.
I mean, we were on some damn good teams, and you won more than I was with the 2012 title team, but most of the bigs, I mean, Anthony Davis obviously is perfectly capable of putting the ball on the floor, but even at Kentucky, he was more of a grab the ball, pivot, find an outlet, and then run. This dude had zero concerns about grabbing the ball and getting it out. Like you said, he's not looking backwards. He's like, I'm going to put the ball on the floor. You're going to catch up, and we're going to run this break the way we've been practicing it all year long. And with the way that this guard, the way that Cal coaches, the way the guards play, the way we run the floor, our length and speed and everything else, to have a guy that's already in that mindset his first time out on the floor, our pace of game is, I mean, we were already one of the fastest scoring teams in the country, and now it's going to go up even further.
Why do you think it is that these, like in the recent years, like you can go back to, let's say the 96 Bulls. Who was that dude they got from Croatia that was on that team with them that they played in the
Tony Kukoc.
Tony Kukoc.
Yeah.
Okay, now let's, starting from there up until this point, and you've seen a lot of these European players come over, like we talked about with Jokic, like we talked about with, Porzingis, we talked about with, Luka, and you see all these different guys come in and impact the game in a different way. And like you said, this kid here is almost like a mixture of Wemby, and who else you say? Jokic, yeah, which is almost like a perfect comparison. I don't know shit about basketball as far as like the X's and O's and things, but I do know athletes and the way that they move. And this kid here, if you got and the thing about it is, like, if you go back, to the Yao Ming days, to the Shaq days, if you were 6'10" or over, your butt was in the paint, and you weren't coming out of the paint. Short corner, maybe. High post, that's as far as you're getting. And now we've developed into a system to where a guy that is 7'2" can go out there and literally throw up 3 threes a night and be able to hit every single one of them. What's been, do you think, has been what's the difference in like how Americans approach basketball versus how those and I understand like those guys are actually playing professional basketball at a very younger age, but like, and that's what gets those guys in that mindset at a very young age to be able to come over here and contribute right away like he did. So like, what's the mindset difference between guys like that and like, let's say like for you, you guys growing up playing basketball?
The game's changed so much. I mean, even obviously the addition of all these, I mean, I don't even know what percentage of the NBA now is European basketball players, but it's far higher than it used to be.
Yeah.
The game itself has dramatically changed. A lot to do with guys like Steph Curry too. That's proven that you can win ball games by jacking up a lot of threes. But Golden State, the way that they've approached the game has changed. Literally created a different type of atmosphere, a different type of approach in the league, which has then meant, guys like Cal, whose main job is to develop guys to be NBA players and professionals. We have to change the way we play too. And a lot of those archaic offenses and archaic coaching styles are going to the wayside because the game is changing at the professional level and it's trickling down. It's taken quite a while to do it, but now it's reached the collegiate level to a point that you can't play archaic. It just doesn't work.
It's like the evolution of basketball and like his player development skills. Like if you're looking at what is the difference between like a European player and NBA American player, it's kind of like the and one mixtape effect, where like in America, so many people are worried about these like meaningless AU games and having these crazy TikTok clips, and they don't care. They just want to win in those countries. And so you're learning basics, fundamentals, how to shoot the ball, how to dribble the ball. And like every player in Kentucky can shoot, pass, and dribble. This kid can shoot, pass, and dribble. And I think it's kind of a cultural thing in Europe where they just teach them how to play simple basketball versus trying to be flashy and fancy and stuff like that. It's like the Rob Dillingham effect, which has worked for him. It's just he's just learned his fundamentals first. I think that's what it is.
I'm sitting here thinking like I'm so glad that football hasn't reached like the level that basketball has like worldwide. Could you imagine a bunch of big ass like Russians out there like playing defensive end?
Yeah,
a bunch of just like a pissed off Slovakians out there playing inside linebacker, just frothing like it will kill you for this tackle.
When Sam was talking about how Big Z he was saying you think he may be the best player in the country, and how like a lot of people could say that if your minutes are as small as his was and you did as good
And
as
have
he
an
did.
impact
Yeah.
like that.
I was thinking like, I bet a bunch of Croatians probably think that USA basketball is a lot easier than what
Probably.
it probably comes to be.
I mean,
you know what
all
I'm saying?
jo-
Like it kind of have a joke. But
Yeah.
To that
you get what I'm
point,
saying?
I
You get
think
what
it
I'm
was-
saying?
But I mean, do you think it like kind of like what you were talking about, going back to the culture of it? Do you think it's got to a point now to where literally athletes, especially like in a sense with basketball, but you see it in every sport, but they're more worried about the TikToks, they're more worried about the likes on Instagram that rather than they are of the basic fundamentals of dribbling a basketball or working on your crossover or pulling up on a transition three. Just like in football players, like they're too worried about the video of the footwork workout than they are with the actual workout. They're worried about, okay, did you get the angles tonight? These dudes over here that are eating bread and milk for dinner, and they're like, oh, I got to feed goat at 5 a.m. and then I go shoot basketball from 7 to 7:30. And then after that, I go work in coal mine camp, 25 feet underground. And then I do that and then go run more basketball stuff. Because even then, like you look at Jokic,
He's
it's just
checking
9
into
to
work.
5.
Yeah.
He's
It's
checking
literally
into
his
work.
9 to 5.
Vlade Divac was smoking cigarettes in the stall in the locker room at halftime. Like,
Yeah.
you have to just
like they literally look at it as their legit job, and then once it's over,
Jokic
Back to
literally
the horse
clocks
stables, brother.
in, man. Like he clocks into work, and when he clocks out, he's like,
he's
"I'm
done.
And you better believe these guys are looking at him and like, I want to be like that guy.
Yeah,
Yeah.
oh yeah. But then, I mean, to your point, Beau, like the European game. If you ask anybody that played, now don't get me wrong, NBA is the elite level of basketball,
absolutely.
Right.
But if you ask,
I was kind of making a joke about
I
that.
know, but if you ask dudes that played overseas, that spent some time playing overseas and played in the NBA, it is more difficult to score overseas than it is in the NBA.
Well, yeah,
The way
because
the
they're
rules
not. I would guarantee they're not making foul calls like they are in the NCAA and the NBA over there.
Well, and the rules are different, and it's just more of a like hard nosed. I mean, it's changed, but basketball, especially at the NBA level, the entertainment value is far surmountable than anything else. They want to make money, so they're putting on a show that they need the healthy players, the all stars. They got to be out there playing. They got to sell tickets. They got to sell merch. They got to do all that stuff. A lot of that European stuff is like Sam said, we're going to win by any means necessary.
Yeah,
and the
You got
rules
the
are
star point guard at Duke painting his nails now, and you got Big Z just coming in ready to tear someone off.
Yeah. I mean, but I think that stretches across sports that are more international than, let's say, football. Like, look at the UFC. Like Dagestan.
So you're saying football's soft, and it would
No,
be
I'm saying that I'm glad that football hasn't reached the worldwide level. You can't stir this. I'm agreeing with you, dipshit. So, like, that's why I think the NFL, you've seen so many games outside the United States in recent years. You're seeing multiple games in Germany. You're seeing multiple games in London. You're seeing multiple games in Mexico City. They're trying to grow the game how, like, the NBA grew the game back in the 1990s with the Dream Team and Michael Jordan and all this stuff. And they're seeing how they're literally following the blueprint of how the NBA got worldwide. With their audience and stuff. But even like going back to what I was saying, like look at the UFC. Like it's ran by Dagestanians now, or wherever they are, the Dagestans, Russians, basically the Russians. Like once Khabib came in and defeated Conor, and now you talk about culturized like stuff like that. What was Conor about? Conor was about, the selling of the fight. He's the brash, the flamboyant cockiness, the saying the most ridiculous stuff just to sell tickets. He's the entertainer. He's the TikTok guy. He's the internet to get everybody talking about it. What does Khabib do? Khabib comes in and is like, like this, like I do this like
I fought a mountain
I'm an
lion last
assassin.
week.
Like I don't like I used to wrestle bears, motherfucker. Like, oh, sorry, Sammy. Good.
No, he's good.
No, he's good. Good earmuffs. Anyways, and he comes in and absolutely destroys. He goes, he said, I'm going to smash your boy. When he, like, I'm sitting there thinking about that. When he said that, I was like, I told my buddies, and
I believe him.
This is a LeBron moment. I told my guys, I told them, LeBron's meme that they keep making fun of. But, like, I'm sitting there thinking, like, he might actually kill Conor McGregor.
yeah.
And can Kentucky basketball create this pipeline of constant European talent coming in?
Because aren't they one of the first people, like one of the first to do it?
Yeah, there's been other guys,
stage with this kind of talent.
From that area at this stage, somebody as big as him, I can't remember like somebody that good from Europe playing college ball in a while.
I can't think of anybody.
No,
I can't.
In college, I mean.
This kid, I'm telling you.
Because usually the guys you see that get drafted in the NBA from overseas usually come from straight overseas. You don't see them come to college because I remember the big thing when Enes Kanter was trying to get eligible through Kentucky, and the dude never stepped on the floor, but the dude ended up being a first round draft pick anyways.
Yeah. Who's the number one overall on the board right now? Do you know?
I'm not sure who it is.
It wouldn't surprise me if
Big Z.
It wouldn't surprise me if this kid climbs all the way up.
Yeah.
So,
all the way up.
But looking at their neck, okay, obviously we got Georgia. Who we got? We played. So today is
tomorrow.
Today's
Monday.
Tomorrow night we play at Mississippi State, right?
South Carolina.
At South Carolina. Saturday's at Mississippi State. I'll check.
We're at
Arkansas.
Oh, okay.
So this episode will be out Wednesday?
Probably.
Okay. So then the game already happened. So I know you've probably already looked into it. What are you looking for coming out of this Georgia game? Because obviously,
it's not what I'm looking for. It's how they're going to have to prepare for us. Like so long, these first couple of games without the 7-footers, like the 8-9 games we had at the beginning of the season.
So before you say anything else, you're expecting us to roll out there and play and win.
I don't see another team in the SEC until.
But that's the mindset you're rolling. We're just going to show up and play and win.
Tennessee No, I'm not saying that.
Because that's a recipe to get your ass beat.
I'm not saying that. I'm saying that for the first 8 or 9 games of the year, we had to adapt our playing style and figure out where the weak points were that we could attack to win a ball game. And now everybody's going to have to adapt to the way we play.
But I do think we're starting to hit an inflection point where we probably have to change the starting lineup. Justin Edwards, I still think he's going to break through, but at the same time, like we start every game 10-10, 10-6 the other team. It might be time, maybe one more game, see how Big Z does to switch up the starters because everyone's looking for a read in the starting lineup. Looks like Big Z is going to be a starter. So you can't afford to start an NCAA tournament game down 10-2 or something like that.
No,
and that's what happens.
Can't happen. We need to be the first to punch and bring the fight to people. Like that's what we do, and we run the floor. And we have the depth this year. Finally, I mean, we've had the depth. We've had decent depth most of the year, but now we really have depth.
Well, does moving forward, is Big Z now in the starting lineup? You think? Obviously.
Yeah. I don't know if he'll be a starter
maybe not
game,
tomorrow,
but yeah, he will be.
Maybe
I
not
was
tomorrow,
in the video that Kentucky basketball put out. I was listening to Cal before the game, and he was like, I may play him 5 minutes.
Yeah.
I may play him 10 minutes. We just want to get his feet wet. Do you think he'll continue that path of just...
No, because that was a Calism. He was saying what he's always going to say, but he knew damn well. I mean, he put him in at the under 16 timeout. He knew he was putting him in. He wasn't like, oh, we're going to see how the game's going. Like he was playing.
That was politician Cal.
He was playing.
Whose spot would he take?
Well, so I'm literally got the stat sheet pulled up here. So I think Justin Edwards, who has been okay, and he will hit that turning point. I think he's probably going to have to slide out of the lineup. Trey Mitchell gave us 23 the other night. Still, DJ's been coming on stronger lately. He had 18 the other night, 8 from 12 from the field, playing really strong. Antonio's doing what he's doing. He's not going to the bench. He's our on court leader and vet. And then obviously Reed and Rob have been coming off the bench, but either one of them could be and should be a starter on any other team in the country and potentially even on this team. That is a little bit, they're playing so well off the bench and they're a secondary wave that can come in and play the way that we need them to. They're giving us what we need them to off the bench. I don't know that I would mix that up, but you have to put Z in there.
So I think DJ Wagner's a lock to stay in.
Yeah.
Just because I know Cal likes him a lot.
Yeah.
Our 2 there, Reeves is a lock. 4, Trey Mitchell's a lock. So the 3 and the 5 are the only things that can change.
Yep.
And who knows? Edwards might take off being a bench player, just like Dillingham.
It's not a demotion.
Yeah.
I mean, everybody looks at it like it is, and on paper, sure, but I don't think it is. We have always said, it's who finishes the game, but the truth is that we're not starting strong enough.
But the question is, how does the lineup of Big Z, Trey, and Bradshaw all in the game at the same time look like? That
it gets questionable. I mean, I can't wait to see this. We got to see Aaron and Z in together for a few minutes. I don't think Ugo was out there with any of them, but the horn sets and things, like stuff we haven't been able to really utilize early this first half of the season that we can start implementing now, gives us a really different look, and it's what's always been effective.
Yeah, they're running a double screen at the top of the key where one guy rolls, one guy pops. And that's how Big Z got one of his baskets. You can do a million different things. Cal's probably staying up at nights in a good way, being like,
he's having a blast with this.
He's having a blast.
That iPad's been dead since Saturday. He's just been having to keep it plugged in.
You got to think about this is the most excitement that he's had, like, as a coach probably in 3 or 4 years.
Yeah. So a quick side note, I've been doing ESPN pregame for 6 years now. This is the 6th year now. And I was on a call with the production team this morning, and like the LM's head honcho, like the owner, Lynn, was in there like, hey, hype around this team is higher than it's ever been right now because people are flooding in to do advertising with the pregame show, which, we've seen good seasons and we've seen fluctuations and that kind of stuff, since I've been doing it, but nothing like this. Everybody's like, this is, advertisers, like business owners in town are all like, we want to get a piece of this action because we know all eyes and ears are going to be on this team moving forward. So circling back to your last point, how do we finish the SEC? Tennessee comes here on February 3rd. So we got these 2 road games tomorrow, which is Tuesday, and then Saturday. Then the following Wednesday, Florida's in town. And then Tennessee comes on Saturday. That will be a real test to see where we're at to start February. We're 6 weeks away from March Madness or from SEC tournament, and I think we're going to be a far different team in 6 weeks or in 2 weeks than we are right now.
I will say that kid on Tennessee is a real deal.
He's a real deal,
good.
man.
He's good.
He's a bucket.
Well, we'll see. So this is like from now on, like this part of the season is now mainly SEC play leading up until the SEC tournament.
We have one game of non-SEC, and that is Gonzaga comes to Lexington. After we went to Gonzaga last year, they come here this year. What do you know what their record is?
They're having a down year. Like, them playing us might determine whether or not they get in the tournament. So they'll be playing desperate. But
Mark Few's one hell of a coach, though. Don't take what their record looks like this year and how they've been playing for granted. That team is going to be prepared when they come in here, and I think that's like Valentine's Day weekend or something.
I got you.
Another side note, I think it's great that we started the season without our 3 7-footers because we had to be a guard-led team, and now the guards can kind of pick and choose their spots, and I just think that the way that worked out has been absolutely perfect.
Well, then as the season moves along, God forbid if something happens, a guy goes down, can't play for a game, you're not having to get used to playing without the 7-footers then when it actually matters. Like you start the season that way, you understand, hey, we got to get guys moving, we got to get guys flashing, picks, whatever we got to do to get these guys open and get the ball. But now you're adding those 7-footers back in there. It's almost like you have 2 different playing styles of just the people that you have in there with you. I mean, it's just like personnel in football. I mean, there's a difference between 11 personnel, 12 personnel, 13 personnel, and who all's in there. So, I mean, Kentucky literally has, at the palm of their hands, literally whatever they want to do.
Well, as Sam said, rising tide lifts all boats. We're a guard-heavy team. We've been able to rely on them from the entire first half of the season. The only thing that this addition of this size in the paint is going to do is create more openings for the guards. It's not going to be a hindrance. It's not going to clog the paint. The way that we play, the way that Cal coaches, the playing style and the schematics that we use, it's going to create more opportunity for these guards to shine. And it creates a threat that literally cannot be guarded. Good offense is going to beat good defense every time. And the way that we create spacing, the way that we use, coming off of ball screens and getting downhill and forcing the defense to make a decision, like Sam mentioned, that split where one big rolls to the basket and one pops. You can't guard them both. I mean, most teams do not have the talent and length and size and the fives that can move the way that ours can to be able to defend both of those. So it's kind of like pick your poison. If you take option 1 and option 2 away, you damn sure can't take option 3 away. And if we're knocking down perimeter shots, it's real tough to beat us.
Well, hopefully the Cats, speaking of lifting all boats, hopefully the Cats have a burn the boats mentality and hopefully go on a championship run.
I think this is the best team we've had to make a threat for the Final Four since our senior year.
Well,
without a doubt.
We'll see.
Without a doubt.
We'll see. Sam, thanks for coming on, man.
Appreciate you guys
anytime
for having
you want to
me.
come on, more than welcome. And we
How about
appreciate
this?
you, brother.
we don't win a national championship again this year, I'll never come on the show again. So.
All right, you heard it here first. Bet. We're going to take a 2-minute break here real quick to listen to an ad from our buddies over at Bluegrass Brothers. So, all right, we'll be back. Take 2.
What's up, Kentucky? This is Alex, owner of Bluegrass Brothers, a new lifestyle brand bred right here in Lexington. Check out our website at www.bluegrassbrothers.com and use code HOUND30 for 30% off your first order. Welcome to a lifestyle rooted in greatness.
Welcome back. Segment 2. We're going to talk about football.
Fresh quid.
Fresh quid. Fresh piss just taken. Your boy's a little dehydrated. Let's say that.
You had a big Saturday.
I did have a big Saturday.
And then you know how I know you had a big Saturday? Because you told me you didn't. That's when I know. When you're like, I didn't have that much to drink. I'm like, okay.
I did? No, I really didn't.
Yeah.
No, I really didn't.
Don't forget, I saw you before I left.
I'm aware of that.
All right. Brandon?
What's Brandon got to do with this? He wasn't even there.
He knows.
No, we don't.
He knows.
No, he don't.
He knows you.
Brandon, have you ever seen me drunk? Thank you.
He knows your personality.
You're just trying to get me in trouble, dude. You're an op, bro. You see that? It's the ones that's closest to you. That's a freaking
How'd the Packers
op.
do?
Oh, so you want to talk? Okay, we'll deep dive right into football. Okay, that's fine with me. The Packers, Todd, the youngest roster ever make the playoffs in NFL history. We almost, only counting horseshoes and hand grenades.
Wait, when you say we, do you mean the Packers or the Browns?
I thought you were a Browns guy.
All right, we're going to do it. We're going to do this. We're going to do it. All right, we had this conversation last week. Hey, but first off, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to segment 2, Mr. Beau Allen. I swear to God, guys, if I'm the only one that claps anymore, I will quit this podcast. Straight up, dude. What are you going to do? Sue me? I ain't got nothing. Come on, bro. But yeah, the Packers. If you'd have told me after week 5 that the Packers would have made a divisional round, I probably would have laughed at you and said you're smoking better with vitamins than we are. Then but then looking into it, we get down to Thanksgiving. They go in and beat the Lions, which I think was basically Jack Harlow's fault.
Dude, I don't know, man.
I think Jack Harlow ruined that game for the Lions.
But I know where you're going with this, but week 10, week 11, week 13, week 14, week 17, I didn't think that they were going to be.
Buddy, they only lost. They lost 1 out of their last 6.
I'm saying, like, I didn't watch that team at any point from week 10 on and be like that's a playoff team.
Yeah, I kept up with Jordan, and that was really the only part of the Packers team that I kept up with. But I was still shocked. But he's been balling a little.
He's been balling, man. Yeah. And the thing about it is that like what's crazy about the Packers is that if you look starting back from Brett Favre, right, it goes from Brett Favre to Aaron Rodgers.
Yep.
Now it's going to go from Aaron Rodgers to Jordan Love, and you see so much Rodgers out of Jordan Love out there.
Yeah, you do.
From his play actions to his cadences to the way that he tries to hurry up and get people on a free play, whether it be on an offsides for the defense or a substitution. They tried that last week against Dallas. Mike McCarthy saw that, was like, no, 12. I've seen 12 do that for 10 years. Nope, timeout. Burned up one real quick. So there's so much potential there. And the fact of the matter is that they are the youngest roster in NFL history to make the playoffs. Obviously, Jordan Love's dealing with a free agency after this year, so the Packers are obviously going to try to re-sign him because ultimately he is your guy for the future. They got to go out and try to find some guys to protect him, even though that the Packers played very well in that game offensively, on offensive line, my bad. I think that if you go out and you try to find a guy that could protect him on the edges and not have to rely on Aaron Jones and those guys to be able to step up and chip as much as they do, then I think that you'll see the Packers be able to develop over time, especially with the young receivers that they have with Romeo Doubs and Jaden Reed and all those guys. You'll be able to develop 3 to 4 years from now, maybe not even 3 to 4 years, maybe 2 to 3 years from now, maybe even next year, you have a great offseason and sign some guys. You can see the Packers in the Super Bowl here in a couple years. So, Brownies didn't make it, so we go for the Packers. They didn't make it. Now we're going to root for
Ravens.
Lions.
I'm gonna go
for the Lions. I'm gonna go with the Lions, even though they're in the division. There's just something about.
I want to go play for Dan Campbell.
I want to go play.
I would throw. I would get my shit rocked, but I would throw on pads for Dan Campbell.
We'll circle back to NFL talk, and actually we do have a clip from Dan Campbell after the Lions win last night, And I could not imagine just the energy in a locker room after an NFL playoff game. And so just seeing that and seeing how much it means to a guy like Dan Campbell, that's my kind of coach. And I think that's America's coach. Shout out MCDC. But Beau, thanks for coming on, man. I know that this was very last minute, and we really do appreciate you coming on here with us. But so as we mentioned in the intro, I got to play with you for a year at Kentucky, and then you transfer out to Tarleton.
Yep.
And then you break a couple conference records down there, a couple season game records. Then you transfer to Georgia Southern, played a year down there, and now you're back in Lexington.
Yes.
Take me through the journey, take me through the difficulties, and just take me through the mindset and the decision making, just even from leaving from Kentucky to, try to prove yourself elsewhere.
Yeah. So early on, my freshman year at Kentucky, I got to play a little bit. We were being Vandy pretty bad, and we were getting killed by Alabama, and I got to play in both of those games. But great experiences, and I really loved every bit of it. And came back for 2021, and that was when Will Levis started. That was his first year here, and we had a really good year as a team, and I loved being a part of the team. But so one thing I started to notice was, I loved football, but I started to kind of waver away from the love of football because I think really what it was is I just wasn't playing, and I wanted to find that again, and I didn't really realize that up until. Probably about the spring or end of the spring, going into the summer of what would have been 2022. And that was when I decided to leave and to go to Tarleton State. And so I got to go there, got to play for a year. We had a great team and a lot of great teammates, coaches. And really, I loved it. I loved every bit of it. But I decided to leave to go back to the FBS level. I ended up at Georgia Southern University. I knew there was going to be a chance that I wasn't going to be eligible. But at that time, there's been hundreds of players who did what I did, where you transferred twice as an undergraduate. And then it was on January 11th of 2023, the NCAA put in kind of a new ruling. So there used to kind of be like 12 boxes or reasons why you could get a waiver as a two-time undergraduate transfer. And they kind of cut the 12 down to about 4. And I didn't really – my situation, I didn't have anything going on personally. Yeah. I was closer to home, but that was really about it.
Now, did they make that cut down after NIL?
Yes, yes, it was after NIL.
So basically all they were doing was, okay, we know that we have hardly any control anymore.
Yes.
We got to find something to try to, screw these kids over because they did that to that kid at North Carolina.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, that was Tez Walker. Yeah.
That was the big uproar about it. So I remember that, and I remember you going through kind of the same things. I remember reading on Twitter about it that you had posted about it. So, but yeah, that's insane to think that literally an organization like that, who for years have been nothing but preaching, like all we care about is the student athlete. Like the student athlete is the only thing we care about, their well-being, their future, their success. And then they get taken out of the equation with NIL. And now you see their true colors of like, okay, we're not going to let kids undergrad transfer twice anymore for whatever reason may be, even though we're going to allow coaches to get out of their contracts and go, coach elsewhere for millions and millions of dollars.
I could see one rule that I would be okay with, and that would be you can't transfer and be immediately eligible in conference. Within conference.
Within conference?
Yeah.
Who cares?
I'm just saying if
that's like saying that
justification though, I'm saying if your justification for implementing the rule is to prevent, something on the field, then you don't want somebody from.
I don't even think they're even thinking it from that lens.
They're not. But
I just think they're thinking it from a lens of that we no longer have power. We are now basically an event organizer. That's all we are, and our name is on the plaques that we give to the national champions of whoever wins, besides college football, because they're the college football playoff national champions. They're not the NCAA. Well, technically they're the NCAA champions, but they're just an event organizer now. Yeah. So the fact that they were doing that to you, bro, I'm sorry I'm getting mad because I fucking hate the NCAA.
They suck.
I cannot fathom my hatred for the NCAA or anybody that is affiliated with the NCAA because there are absolute fucking clowns out there.
The worst part about it is that there were some, I got to hear about different circumstances of people in my situation with some real problems going on in their life.
Yeah.
Like some personal problems with going back home like that guy from North Carolina was. I'm not sure about the exact situation, but got to read a little bit about it. But That's probably the hardest. It's like for me, I wanted to play a different level of football again, but also, I mean, I was closer to home. But I mean, I've heard some terrible stories of how just the process of what some guys had to go through to become eligible for some pretty just bad circumstances that happened in their own lives.
So they narrow it down to those 4 boxes, right?
Yes.
And then how did you get past that hurdle?
So really, I mean, we kind of like me and the compliance team at Georgia Southern, we went at it, and kind of throughout the spring, kind of understanding what I was trying to do. The main thing we were going to use is that like this happened after I entered the portal, and that, and I was going to be still about like in Texas, I was probably like a 16-hour drive. Now it's about like 7.5. So we tried to go through that way, but it kind of just ended up getting denied. And so I was probably pretty down about it for a month, but then you kind of look at better things that you kind of get out of that situation. And one thing I would say, like I bet if that didn't happen, I would have came back.
Yeah.
So that's one thing I'm probably kind of happy about now.
Yeah.
But for a while it really sucked. But there's good things that came out of it too.
What were some of the things that you did to kind of just block out the negativity of that situation?
Yeah, like, the one thing like that I like to do, or earlier on, it's like like when you're playing a season, you can't lift.
Right.
Like I know you like to lift a lot.
No, I hate it.
But that was one thing. It's kind of like a consistent off season, and I can still practice. Like I did everything, I just couldn't play in the games.
Right.
And like one thing I got to do the scout team for this year. I never got to do that before. Like I bet you never did that when you were at Kentucky.
No.
And they kind of, and the coaches there, they on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, all the way up to Friday, we could go at it pretty good. Like there was no coach telling me to like, hey, throw it here, throw a pick every once in a while, So that was one good thing that I took away. It was a good way to, like when we really started camp and started getting into the week to week in the season, it was a lot more enjoyable because I really got to do a lot more. Because I mean, you got to take pretty live reps. I mean, not getting hit or anything.
Yeah.
But that was one thing that was kind of I wouldn't have expected that I would appreciate it as much as I have.
So you're probably one of the only players that I know that was pre-NIL and now you're post-NIL. Obviously, I was pre-NIL, so I have zero idea of what it's like as a player. What has been some of the biggest differences that you've seen from just overall, like how it's changed the game entirely, and 2, how it's changed the locker room?
Mm-hmm. I think within the game, I would say maybe with the game, maybe not a whole lot.
Now, by the game, I mean like the day-to-day. Now, when I say locker, I mean just the locker room and stuff, but like the day-to-day of like,
Yeah, I think there's players got a whole lot more things going on.
Yeah.
There's a lot I remember like when Will was here or something, he was just doing all. I don't blame him at all. But he just I bet compared to like your guys, like Karl Anthony Towns' day compared to what, I don't know, Big Z or I don't know any guys who got these NIL deals today. I bet their just days are busier.
Yeah, you're working in photo shoots and
exactly. All that sorts of stuff. And so I think day to day, that's the biggest difference.
Yeah,
for sure.
Have you seen it come into the locker room in any kind of way of maybe like some guys like, man, screw this. Like I'm out there busting my ass. I'm out there making plays. I'm not getting this. Like, is there ever a sense of that? And not just, obviously I'm not talking about like at Kentucky, but just like overall in general, of people you've had from different universities or any like stories like that you might have heard about.
I think maybe a little bit, like you maybe feel a little bit of that. But I think one thing I guess I would have, it's on the counter side of that kind of, or some people who are like that. There's a lot of people kind of look at it more of it's just so much more professional in that way. You know what I'm saying? Like I bet the pro guys you gotten to be around, and I think about kind of a lot of people kind of look at it like some guys are like, I'm putting in all this work and everything, but some people may be understanding of that like it's not enough, or or some guys are like I can put more and more and more, and maybe I'll get more of that reward down the future. But so I think yes, but not as much as what I would have imagined like before this ever happened.
Have you seen anybody like that may have had this hunger and this fire before that once they've realized that they're going to be getting paid $25,000, a month or whatever, that they kind of lose that edge, or they start showing up late to workouts, or they're not as dialed in as they once were. Have you seen any of that?
I don't think so. I'm being honest. Like I know I haven't been around this new team as much as I was with the past couple, but I really don't right now. I mean, honestly, I really don't.
Because I could just sit there and imagine some of the dudes that we played with, and some of the dudes that
were calling it a day after,
and I'm just there thinking, man, if you had that guy getting paid any amount over what we already get paid from stipend, this dude would not. He probably wouldn't even be here.
Yeah,
right now.
Yeah. No, I think,
isn't that telling though? Like who can be a pro and who can't?
Yeah, that's very telling, and I would imagine that. And obviously, I can't speculate, but I would imagine that once this law got passed, that there were some meetings, whether it be with as a team or as a unit, as an offense unit, as a defensive unit, or as just individuals maybe. I don't know what it may have looked like, but, I'm sure that they laid out like, okay, now this is now a business. Like this is now within almost like the NFL. And the thing about NIL is it's, to me now, it is no longer name, image, and likeness. It's legal.
It's a great point.
Back then, you couldn't pay under the table, wasn't legal. It's like basically now, it's like if weed's legal, right? In a certain state, like if you're in Colorado, you could go to the dispensary and get it, but the guy that's getting it on the low is still enjoying it because it's legal now because he can still do it. That's how I look at collectives when it comes to NIL, is that it's pay for play, because you're going to recruit these kids out of the transfer portal or out of high school saying, hey, you come here, not only we're going to get you some deals with, brands or whatever, we're going to automatically guarantee you're going to be getting 15, 20, 25,000 a month, a car within this price range, on a lease, all this stuff. And so now I'm just sitting there thinking like, if some of these dudes that I would have played with had this and they knew that they were, getting paid, they would not have shown up. So I'm sure that when they had these meetings saying, hey, this is now a business, you better lock in, or we can now find people. We can literally now go out and find people to replace your ass.
Yeah. They were worried about us getting free tacos at local tacos.
Yeah, dude.
It's crazy.
Dude, I got a recruiting violation because I took a picture with Tim Couch on the sideline.
That's
when I was a recruit. I got a recruiting violation before I even stepped foot on campus as an athlete.
I was a walk-on who wasn't on scholarship coming off my first summer, and I needed a job because I couldn't pay for, I wanted to be able to live the way I wanted to live throughout the year. So over the summer, I was like, well, I'll just find something fun, not fun, but something that I can do that's, active, where I can be out, make a little bit of money, and, no big deal, a couple months worth of work. So I took a job with Wildcat Moving, and I literally moved people's furniture for, $25 an hour, which they paid really well because you don't do anything but lift furniture and move it. I was like, well, I'm still going to be active. I can still get my workouts in the morning. I can still do everything else I need to do. And I was only going to have 6 weeks of downtime that I could fit it in. So I could pocket a little bit of change before the start of the year. And they put my picture on the website with everybody else, like a big group picture of everybody one day. And I got suspended for it because they said that I was marketing.
That's crazy.
For a local...
You're working just.
I was working. I was in the photo with everybody else. I made no extra money for it, and they were like, "It's a marketing. You're marketing for them. It's a violation." And people have way worse stories when it comes to NIL that they were punished for. One in particular that lost his Heisman.
I thought I was screwed with my senior year. I thought I was screwed because a hat company. I'm just not going to say names. You guys.
By the way, when I want to make sure I make this clear, Wildcat Moving did nothing wrong. They were,
absolutely.
They were great. And they were just as confused as I was. So, but go on.
So I had this one hat company. They reached out and was like, "Hey, we want to send you some hats. All this stuff. All you'd have to do is pay the shipping fee, and whatever shows up in the box shows up in the box.
Mm-hmm.
We don't know how that got in there." So I was like, okay. So I technically paid for it, but I paid that $5 shipping fee for $120 worth of hats.
Mm-hmm.
and I would wear them, and I would just tag them in the photo, and then they would use, like, you know how when you get tagged, you can repost it to your story and all that stuff. So I did that with a hat company, I did that with a shampoo company, and I did that with a sunglasses company. And I remember we were in summer workouts, and I got pulled out of summer workouts, and it was one of the compliance people.
I know which one it was too.
And they said, you need to come upstairs right now. I was like, why? Is everything okay? They're like, you need to come upstairs right now. I'm like, okay. So I go up there, and it's in the new cats area up there. And so we go in like the big computer room. Yeah. And so there's me, there's like 2 or 3 other administrators, there's compliance people, there's all these people in here. And they got a stack, and I mean a stack of paper sitting there. And it's just nothing but blown up photos of the companies reposting me. And they're like, what's this? I'm like, I don't know. And they're like, they're reposting you. I said, yeah, because I posted that first. And they said, well, how'd they get that? And I said, because I tagged him. He said, so you're marketing for him? I said, not at all. And I said, well, how's that not marketing? I said, did I tell anybody in that caption to go buy from this company? No, I did not. And so when I hit him with that and we talked through it and everything, that was like one of my biggest, like, hey, Sam, can you turn around that way? Can you look at, hey, Sam, look at that. Look what's that. What is that? It was like one of the biggest, you know, to the NCAA I could ever do. And I felt so proud about it.
They're like treating you like a criminal.
Yeah.
Yeah, dude. And I was like, I had even had to like pull up like my bank statements and said, hey,
That's crazy.
I paid for this. I paid for that. Here it is. It was like a whole month thing.
I remember one of the compliance people, I won't say who, pulled us into a meeting one time and said, she was like, you can't even, if you're walking home from a football game, this was the actual example they used. If you're walking home from a football game and it's pouring down rain and somebody pulls over and asks you if you want to ride, that you have to say no. And I was like, why would I have to say no? And they were like, because unless they ask everybody else walking home from that football game if they want to ride or an umbrella or whatever it is, that you're in violation.
Have some common sense.
And I'm like, can we not have like a little common sense law here where it's like, you know.
Bro, you know what that reminds me of? That reminds me of the elementary school days when you would bring gum to class and the teacher would say either everybody in the class gets a piece of gum or nobody can have a piece of gum. It's exactly what they just did right there.
It's outrageous.
It's
the only thing for NIL that the most beneficial thing I think as far as the rule following for NIL is all that shit can go out the window. Yeah. Like now, as many other things and other problems as it's going to cause, and we're far from being able to sort those out. Like it seems like it's going well now. There's going to be all kinds of issues at some point. Somebody's going to have a contract in place where they're making, $1 million to play for a season, and halfway through the season they transfer, and then somebody's coming looking for that money. And it's going to come into contract work, and then the contracts work, their NCAA or compliance at a school is going to say, well, now you have to have a legal representation review the contract before you sign it. All that stuff is going to happen eventually. But one of the good things that it did was throw out all that bullshit. Like you don't have to deal with, like, if you want, you're a college student, right? Like most NIL, some people are making a bunch of money. Those people are going to go on to sign shoe deals in the league at some point anyway. The people, like the most of us that are just making, just trying to get by through college, you want to get a free haircut and throw a story up for them? Great. You want to get a free lunch or go on a date with your girlfriend and they comp it? Great. Like those kind of things, finally we can take a breath and be like, let's be real human beings about this, and we don't have to worry about the backlash from it. But the whole business side, there will be several cases that happen in the next couple of years, I'm sure, that are going to cause all kinds of legal battles that'll drag on for years.
Yeah, but it can't be worse than it was before, because like you had football players, basketball players at different high major schools who were getting brown bags full
Johnny
of money,
Manziel,
full of money, and to move that amount of money like undocumented is like kind of dangerous.
It's illegal. Yeah.
But the best part about it was that shit was tax free.
Yeah.
Not to the person that gave the money though.
I'm talking about the athlete that was.
But until you get hit with that wire fraud,
yeah. But hey, I'll always say this is from like a competition level. paid under the table college athletics greater than NIL. That's how I'll finish that conversation. But, Beau, I got one more last question for you here, man. You've been around Liam Cohen once. Now you're coming back into this same system with him this year. What are some of the things that, you see in this team moving forward? Obviously, you guys haven't been out there with spring ball or anything yet. You're just in with Coach Ed and everything right now. But, have you guys been meeting? Have you, obviously with you coming back in with this system, I'm sure you've been, trying to get into the film room as much as you can. Has there been anything different you've seen coming back from a Cohen ran offense that you previously once had here?
Not a whole lot yet. Again, we're meeting and stuff. We're starting to just go over everything with the quarterbacks and Coach Cohen and sometimes the assistant coaches. But I guess the one thing I'd say where it may not seem as different, like when we're installing day 1, day 2, day 3, because that stuff's really the same. But I can tell from like last year compared to 2021 is that the best thing about him, and this may not answer your question necessarily, but I wanted to talk about it because it kind of is related to it. He does such a great job of playing his personnel and coaching his personnel, I guess the way to say it. But like I remember in 2021, and we would be like at the Rams, they were outside zone. Jared Goff never ran the ball one time in his life, and then he gets to come to Kentucky, and we were a big inside zone team for your whole career.
Yeah,
and we started getting into a little bit outside zone, but I think probably by week 2 or week 3, like we started to be a much more downhill running team, running a read option with Will, and doing all that sorts of work. So I think there's not as much of a change on the install day 1, day 2, day 3 kind of, or like the off season kind of outlook of it. But I think once we get into more of understanding what we're really good at and what we need more work on, I think that's where I'll probably start seeing those changes.
Well, now that you talk about that, coaching to his personnel and talking about, establishing a downhill run attack, I remember it was either for the season or at some point in the season, people were so amazed at how we were throwing the ball vertically down the field because of what we were used to seeing with our inside zone and gap schemes, because we never even ran outside zone. No. The only thing we ran was literally split zone, inside zone, and gap. That's literally the only thing, and power. That's really the only 4 or 5 runs that we had. And now bringing in Cohen, people are like, thank God, we're finally going to open up the defense or open up the offense and try to, take vertical shots down the field. And I think that people were so mesmerized about that they didn't even know that we were actually rushing more than we were throwing, like in like total yardage. I don't know if that was for the whole season or just at some point in the season. I was looking at it for the podcast, and I go, hold on a second.
In 2021?
Yeah, in 2021. I was like, hold on a second. I said, we have 300 more rushing yards than we do passing yards, but people are always just talking about the way that we're throwing the football. Because I think that, that makes that with Cohen's offense in 21, that's what made it so complete. Yeah, is that we already knew that we can establish a downhill run game, no problem. That's our MO. Like that's what the Big Blue Wall was built upon. That's what we as a team have been built upon offensively as a unit. And that's what our identity has been. The last 3 to 4 years up to that point. And so now when people saw that and was like, okay, now we can air it out a little bit. I just think that's what made it more round. And I think that, with this year looking at this team, I think they saw a lot more of that with Ray Davis. Now, obviously, we didn't have the performance through the air like we wanted to or like we saw in 21 or even in 22 last year. But moving forward this year, what are some of the things personally from you that you look forward to working on in the spring? And what are some of the things you're looking forward to, just as a whole, coming out when spring ball
myself, mainly getting back and getting under center and getting with the whole just procedures of our new offense it wasn't really new to me, but what I've been in the past 2 years and just getting rhythm down to receivers and getting my timing down to the best it can be. But as a whole, I think the biggest steps for us is having one thing and Coach Cohen talked about last year, comparing what we need to get better at going into this year. Was a lot of he said this was a fault on him more than anybody, but our receivers and tight ends, he didn't use them interchangeably. He'd be like, we have one guy to do this, one guy to do that. Right. And we got a lot of good receivers, a lot of good tight ends that can do a whole bunch of different things. And I think that's what's the most exciting to me and what will be the most exciting for us. It's like Dane Key, obviously he's caught so many fade balls and balls over his head. And Barry Allen can run by anybody, but they're good receivers. They can really run any route in the route tree. And he's talking about things like we need to expose we need to show how good our receivers really are and how they can do multiple different things.
Yeah.
And I think that's going to be the biggest eye-opening thing people will see going into the season.
Well,
and we got a lot more other good receivers too.
That is one thing that I looked at, was that when you looked at a Kentucky game this year, was that when there was a certain personnel group in there, or certain, let's say, when I knew that Bates was in there alone by himself, I knew that there was a slimmer chance of him going vertically and attacking the seam and getting the ball thrown to him there. But then when we had Jordan Dingle in, I was like, okay, this is where they're trying to dial something up seam wise, or try to get, the ball moving vertically. Because I think that's ultimately, what you're talking about, making those interchangeables like that keeps a defense on their toes. Because I'm thinking from a defensive perspective too, is that you can pick up on certain things like that in film. And when I see a guy say, okay, they're bringing this guy in on, second medium, third and short, first and 5, something like that. Well, there goes the timer. I'll end it with this. But then, obviously, when another guy comes in, it's like, okay, statistics show that, 57% of the time, when they're in this formation or with this guy right here with this kind of cut, this is what the mathematics is showing what they run. So being able to, keep a defense on their toes and keep them guessing, because you have so many athletes out there that you could put, inside the tackle with a tight end swap, or a swap boot, something like that, or you could release him inside vertical, because I knew that was one of the hardest routes as a linebacker, is that when you had that tight end insert and then just run almost like a 50P. That was one of the hardest routes that we had to cover, because we don't know if that guy's inserting the block or if he's going on the pass. Yeah. So
that's like we'll have 3 tight ends this year that can do that, and 3 tight ends that can split out, 3 tight and maybe more too. But that's what's going to be the biggest difference from the past couple of years.
I can't wait to see it, man. I'll be over there for a couple spring practices, so I'll be over there evaluating. But I appreciate you coming on, man. You're more than welcome to stay with us for the next segment, but I know that, I don't want to take too much of your time. But again, I appreciate you coming on and doing this last second, and we'll do it again, man. I appreciate it.
I appreciate you all,
man. Welcome home.
Fun.
Yeah, man. Welcome back. Welcome back. Glad to have you back. We'll take one more ad break right here, and we'll be right back to talk about a division round and championship Sunday matchups. We'll look at a Dan Campbell post-game post-game locker room interactions with his players. And then we're going to talk about
right here.
No, but then we're going to talk about Jason Kelce for a minute, and not only the career he had, but the day that he had yesterday.
He had a big day
with Bills Mafia. So right after this ad break, we'll come back and talk about that right here, right now. Take 2. And welcome back. Third, last segment of the pod, episode 2. Appreciate you guys watching. Big shout out to Beau Allen and Sam Malone for stopping by, talking Kentucky football, talking Kentucky basketball. Appreciate them both. You know what it's time to talk about now, though?
NFL.
Even more football in the NFL.
Dude,
the divisional round was this week, man, and we only have so many weeks of NFL football left, so many weeks to place your bets. Speaking of placing your bets, if you're looking to place your bets on the best sports app in America, look no further than FanDuel.
Subtle.
Do we have a code yet? Or anything with them? Or is this just like a personal deal?
I have Lanter, but we don't have Fully Unscripted.
Well, until we get Fully Unscripted, you could use the promo code Lanter to get them what?
I actually don't know what promo is running right now, because it was the.
I mean, what's your code Lanter get people?
Well, it depends what promo they're running.
Oh, okay. Well,
I'll have to look and see. Look
for FanDuel,
because it was through the regular season. Now that it's in the playoffs, I don't know what they're running right now. I'll check. We'll put it in the caption.
Anyways, NFL football playoffs, divisional round. We talked about it last week. This is a divisional round that I think either shocked or really didn't shock a lot of people in certain aspects.
I would say it was probably one or the other.
One of the things, we'll talk about from game, starting off with the Ravens and Texans. Obviously, the Ravens getting the win 34-10 in Baltimore. I was expecting to see Mark Andrews back out there for the Ravens because he was a full participant in the last 2 practices of last week's preparation for the Texans, and he didn't play. Marlon Humphreys is dealing with an injury as well. I would probably expect to see them back, depending on their more so Marlon Humphrey's progression than Mark Andrews because he has been a full participant in practice the last couple weeks or last week, the last 2 practices. But if they get Mark Andrews back, man, I mean, you're already talking about an offense who's dynamic as they are with Lamar Jackson and Gus Edwards and Zay Flowers and, Odell Beckham Jr. I mean, I can go on and on about it. And you add back a guy like Mark Andrews, who's easily one of the top 3, top 5 NFL tight ends in the game today. Ultimately, a couple weeks ago in the regular season, going out with that ankle injury and having to have that tightrope surge that you see a lot of college athletes do. He's coming back from that. And I think ultimately that just opens up your offense. And so, but the thing I took away from the Ravens and Texans game is that you can tell Houston's a young team. Mm-hmm. This is a veteran-led Baltimore team all across the board from offense and defense. You got a guy like Patrick Queen, especially, who I think Patrick Queen has probably one of the more improved inside linebackers. Now, when I say, I don't want to give him the most improved award because nobody ever fucking wants that, but just from the tape that you've seen last year to now, you could easily say that Patrick Queen is a top 5 inside linebacker in this game. And I think he's shown it, especially in his playoff run, especially last night against, or not last night, but Saturday against the Texans. You can tell that C.J. Stroud he's a rookie quarterback, not taking away anything that he did this year because ultimately you could put him up there for being in the overall MVP argument if you wanted to. Obviously, NFL Rookie Offensive Player of the Year, had a great outing last week against the Browns, and then this week, you can just tell that, they ran up against a more, experienced, especially in the playoffs, veteran-led team like the Ravens. So ultimately, I think the Ravens are going to end up winning, or not winning, but getting to the Super Bowl. And actually, did you see? I'll try to find it and put it up here right now. And if I do, I'll talk over it as we put it up on here. I'll get it to Brandon. But the script's already been written. Have you seen this?
I haven't seen it.
The script's already been written.
I mean, you can tell by looking at the logo, Super Bowl logo.
There was a Canadian either news outlet or a news station, okay? And they put out something that said along the lines of catch Super Bowl whatever, February whatever, and it had 49ers and Ravens on there. So I'm just saying, if it happens. I
think Detroit is going to the Super Bowl.
We'll get to the lines, and I can't wait to talk about the brand new lines. But this is from the script aspect of things, I can see it.
A lot of speculation around that.
I can see that. I mean, having a rematch in Super Bowl 40.
Oh, I'm not going to know this.
It was 2012. That's all I know. I remember the exact day and time where I was at watching that game. Yeah, and they had the power outage. And that was a big conspiracy for years. I think it is still kind of a conspiracy.
I remember that.
But I mean, because where were they were playing in the Superdome?
I can't remember.
And I'm pretty sure it was the Louisiana Superdome.
I can't remember. I'll look it up.
And you mean to tell me that place lost power then, but they didn't lose power during Katrina? Come on now. But anyways, Ravens look pretty obviously impressive. Lamar Jackson does his thing. Bets didn't hit in that game.
Superdome.
Superdome? Mm-hmm. Yeah. No.
What do you 2013.
Know? But bets didn't hit. Did you have any lines in that game that hit?
In the
Ravens Texans?
I did, but I don't remember what it was. I think I had the Ravens money line, but I can't remember. Let me see. C.J. Stroud had 175 yards. I'm pretty sure I had him for 200 yards, and that didn't hit. I hit Lamar's rushing, I believe.
Well,
Zay Flowers, man.
What a dog.
What a dog.
What a dog. But the Ravens move on to the AFC Championship. Obviously, Lamar going to be the favorite for. Well, he already was. He won MVP. Yeah. But let's get down to.
Who do they play? Who do they play?
The Ravens. Mm-hmm. They play the Kansas City Chiefs. And we'll get to that game right after here. We talk about these other ones here real quick. Let's get to the Packers and 49ers. Packers obviously came up short, as we already talked about at the beginning of the show, 24-21 on the road in San Fran. At the end of the day, I'm proud of the Packers. This is literally everybody looked at it as a rebuilding year. and I know this is coming from a perspective of, at least we got there with the youngest receiving core in NFL, with the youngest roster to make the playoffs in NFL history, with a first-year quarterback replacing Aaron Rodgers. And like we've already said, we've already seen so many similarities between Jordan Love and Aaron Rodgers out there. I mean, it's ridiculous. And so I think the Packers have they have a system, and I think in years past, from a fan's perspective, it could have been like, they're pushing, they're getting ready to push Favre out because they drafted Rodgers in the first round. And then you see what happens when they draft Jordan Love.
He got 3 years of mentorship?
So same thing with Rodgers.
Yeah.
And so I'm sitting there thinking now, I mean, maybe the Packers have something in place to where we're going to take a first round quarterback when we feel like, you're dwindling down on your playing days. And so it's paid off twice so far, with Jordan Love and Aaron Rodgers. So I think
it sounds like you're insinuating that Aaron Rodgers might be.
He's dwindling out his toward the tail end of his career.
Might be done playing.
No, he's not done playing, dude. What I'm saying is that from a business perspective, I could see how we're going to bring this kid in from Cal. The way that they looked at Favre is Favre, you're about to be 40. We need to get this kid in here to learn from you, have 2 to 3 years under his belt, learn your cadence, learn how you watch film, learn your progressions, learn your reads out there, how to be a teammate, all that good stuff. And so then I think that, when Jordan Love came in, obviously initially Aaron Rodgers thought it was a slap to the face. I thought it was a slap to the face, and so many different Packers fans across the country did as well. And so did a lot of the media members did as well too. But then now that I look at it now, it's almost like, they were just, preparing. It was a smart business decision. And so, ultimately, the Packers basically told Rodgers once he came out of the darkness retreat that, we're prepared to move on. And they did. Ultimately, with his first year starting, making the divisional round, obviously there is a lot of potential there, especially with the young receiving core the Packers have, with a talented back end in the secondary on defense they have. Their front seven with Quay Walker, with Rashawn Gary, with Preston Smith, and be able to find guys where you can rotate along on that defense, especially in that young secondary. We've got an ex-Cat with Carrington Valentine back there actually getting into it with Deebo Samuel in that game on the sideline, driving each other into the Gatorade coolers. But ultimately, at the end of the day, the 49ers are obviously a more dynamic and talented team on paper, with Christian McCaffrey, Bosa, Chase Young, Brock Purdy coming into his own as a quarterback, now going into his second NFC championship in 2 years.
252 yards next
252 yards. And so, ultimately, at the end of the day, the Packers had a great run and a lot to build off of for next year. So,
speaking of great runs, they got a dog in the backfield in San Francisco.
In
San Francisco.
Oh, yeah, Chris.
Certified. Talk about an MVP,
certified dog.
Talk about an MVP. If he play, I know that the MVP is typically a quarterback position award, but Christian McCaffrey led. He was in that conversation, and he definitely would. If it wasn't just a quarterback award, then he probably would have been the front runner.
I had him as just seeing what he did, with 16 straight games with a touchdown.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously I think, that streak ended because I would have kept rolling over my bets on that. We would have been, $25,000 richer by now. But, if it wasn't Lamar and what he's been able to do this season, who else can you look at? Well, you could look at a guy like Tyreek Hill, who didn't end up breaking Jerry Rice's record. Now, if he would have broken Jerry Rice's record, I could see them giving the MVP to him, just based off that alone, just because that's a ridiculous milestone that I don't think it's going to take a lot.
He's a top 5 receiver ever.
Yeah, but it's going to take a lot to break that record. And just the way that you were talking about being a quarterback award, even with a guy like Christian McCaffrey, who's probably one of the more athletic players on the offensive side of the ball around the NFL, the way that I think that the running back position is kind of, morphing around the style of play of Christian McCaffrey because of what the 49ers have been able to do offensively from an X's and O standpoint, because you're seeing the traditional running back and its position die. And that's why you're seeing, a guy like Jonathan Taylor requesting a trade because he's not getting paid. You're seeing, running backs not getting paid, or pissed off about what they're getting paid because NFL owners realize that is a position that, within 3 years, you could be go from a Heisman Trophy winner to a dude with 2 busted knees.
Yeah,
and so
it's a short-lived position.
It's a very short-lived position. So how do you get around that? Well, you send him more out on passing routes. You open up your offense more, and ultimately, I think that's what Christian McCaffrey's been able to do. And so I think that people will look at that and look at not Sean McVay, but look at Shanahan's offense and see that we can get if we can get a running back that's as dynamic as an athlete as Christian McCaffrey. It doesn't have to be Christian McCaffrey, but if he can go out on passing routes and we can have him as a threat out there as a receiver, then ultimately that's what the game's going to be moving to, just because the game already is a passing league. You're not going to be seeing these guys that, are going to be getting the rock, 35 times a game anymore. I mean, that's just not how it is. So moving forward, I think you'll see a lot of people gravitate toward that kind of style of play and putting guys in position to let them be an athlete. Even look at what they do with Deebo Samuel with like the jet sweeps, or sometimes if McCaffrey's down, they'll put him back there at running back. He is dealing with a shoulder injury. He went out in the first half of the Packers game. It was the same shoulder that he missed a couple games with this regular season. So keep an eye out on that to see if he comes back for the NFC Championship. I listened to both Adam Schefter and Ian Rappaport today on the McAfee show, and none of them really had an update. But if it is that same shoulder, and it's to a degree to where Deebo can't play as Deebo, because Deebo's not a finesse dude. He's going to lower his shoulder. He's going to set hard blocks. He's a physical player. So if he can't go out and be Deebo, do you put him out there and risk him of being hurt to not be able to play in the Super Bowl, or ultimately go have a weakness in your armor out there as an offense and have a defense be able to scheme around that? So keep your eyes out on that to see if he ends up playing or not playing. And, but ultimately I think the 49ers will end up going to the Super Bowl, even though they do have to go against the brand new Lions. Next game we're going to talk about. The Lions pull away in that one, winning over Tampa Bay, which is probably one of the more confusing endings I've seen in a divisional round. Tampa Bay had 1 timeout left, and I believe there was 45 seconds. They had enough time to call a timeout and force a 4th down and get the ball back and try to make something happen. They just completely gave up on the game there at the end. That just made 0 sense to me. But Jared Goff, you're good enough for Detroit, man. And speaking of Dan Campbell, man, the locker room after that game was incredible.
Let's take a look.
I could not imagine the emotion, the camaraderie, the sense of we just did that shit rather than what the Lions did. Here's Dan Campbell talking to the Detroit Lions after a big divisional playoff game.
You guys are unbelievable, man. I'm telling you, we talked about it all year. This started a long time ago. You're built for this. You were built for this, man. And look what you guys did. You went out there, and it's another hot team that we knocked off. It's the next hot team that you knock off. Do you know how hard it is to win in this league in the playoffs? Do you understand what you're doing right now? What we're capable of? That's 2. All right, that's 2. We got 2 to go. With a bye in the middle. I am unbelievably proud of everybody in here, man. Coaches, players. That's the way to mount up, man. That's a fucking difficult team to beat, man. All right, I got 1 game ball. Man, in the game, need to fucking play. Derek Barnes.
Hey, man, love y'all boys, man. From the support in the linebacker room, the coaches, staff, organization, offense, man. 3 years, man. It took me 3 years to get the first interception. But it means more because the people who believed in me. Yeah, a lot of people didn't. The room. This ball, I got to give it to the linebacker room because I said we was going to bring one back, and God, we did. And you got to believe how far we can go, man. Yes, believe it now. Believe it now. This is a good win. Enjoy it, man. This comes once in a lifetime. Like Alex used to tell me, man, a lot of people don't make it this far, but we did, man. I love everybody in this room, man. Everybody in here deserve it. That's why we here, like Coach said. Hey, man, time to prepare for San Fran.
I mean, how can you not want to play for a guy like that?
Or Mike McDaniel?
Him.
I'm saying those two.
Yeah, him or Mike McDaniel, hands down, the top 1 and 2 coaches that I would want to play for right now in the NFL. Dan Campbell, more so just because of the raw emotion that thank you. Cat got my tongue. That you see him pour out. And there's another video of him talking in the middle of camp about like him just wanting to do this shit for them, and all he thinks about is those guys and putting them in the best position to win. And you can see in that video that he truly cares about these dudes, man. And that's what makes dudes want to play for a guy like that, man.
In that camp video that you're talking about, he was like talking about how while we're suiting up today, like while they're putting on pads.
Yeah,
and he's
you're
like,
why.
I promise, I know what I'm doing.
Just believe in me.
Yeah.
And that's the thing. Like you got to have that's what I ask athletes all the time. Like if it's on camera, especially off camera, because a lot of guys like. You know, they don't want to tell people their why because people say, oh, that's kind of fucked up or that's kind of weird or you're selfish or whatever. So sometimes people don't want to tell their why, but like you can tell what Dan Campbell's why is, like why he wakes up every morning and is fired up to be an NFL head coach, why he's fired up to coach the Detroit Lions. And you can see that, and that ultimately plays over to how those guys play because they want to play for a guy like that.
You can see it in the assistant coaching staff and the support staff how much they care about him. Like they love that dude.
And the city of Detroit, like that dude literally embodies like the city of Detroit. 6'7", 300 pounds of just solid, just fucking jaws. He throws in bigger fucking dips of Copenhagen than I do. And he's just sitting there, I'll tell you what, man, I do this shit for you guys, man. Hey, Jared Goff, man. Fucking good enough for Detroit, man. Like, I love that dude. From the moment that he was talking about biting kneecaps on the way up, from when people knock him down, I was like, that's a motherfucker I'd die for. That's a dude I'd run through a fucking wall for now.
I'm more hyped, I think, for that game.
I'm hands down more hyped about it than the AFC Championship. Hands down. And even though the Lions are division rivals with the Packers, you can say that all you want. The thing about me is I'm not a fucking I'll never understand how a human being, especially a grown adult male, can literally have their entire personality being embodied on a team and other grown males that do not give a single shit about whether they are alive or dead right now. They don't give a shit. I'll tell you what, best example, have you ever seen the movie The Bronx Tale?
No.
Okay, that's a great, we need to watch that.
I'll watch it.
Robert De Niro.
Okay.
Great movie, Italian gangster movie. Main character, Sonny. Sonny is like he's the head honcho of the neighborhood, right? And the kid, they nickname him C. His real name's Calogero, and they call him C. And he's kind of like grooming this kid, as he's coming up. And Robert De Niro's his dad, doesn't want him hanging around Sonny and all this shit. Well, the kid had a Yankees hat on, and he was always so excited to go watch Mickey Mantle play. And he got talking with Sonny, and he said, "Hey, what you got on there? A Yankees cap?" He said, "You a Yankees fan?" He said, "Yeah." He goes, "Who's your favorite player?" He goes, "The Mick." He said, "I love the Mick." And he said something about "I hate somebody." He goes, "He made the Mick cry." He goes, "What do you care about Mickey Mantle for?" He said, "You think Mickey Mantle cares about you? Is Mickey Mantle paying your bills right now?" Mm-hmm. He said, "Let me ask you something." He said, "Go ask your dad." He said, "Ask him who pays the bills. Does Mickey Mantle pay your bills?" He said, "That's it. Nobody cares." At the end of the day, nobody cares. So, I'll never be the guy to say, "Oh, dude, the fucking Packers, dude. If they don't fucking win, dude, I'm gonna be in deep fucking depression, dude. I'm not going to work, dude. I can't fucking do this, dude. I'm not one of those guys. I'll never be one of those people."
Well, we're both more fans of the sport than we are.
Yeah, and I'm more fans of the player aspect too, more so than a team. So I don't even know where I was going with. What was I talking about?
About how you're not super upset that the Lions are having success when the Packers lost out.
It's in division I get that, but you're seeing a team that's not won in years in a city that hasn't seen any kind of positivity, and I don't know, since the Pistons in 04.
Yeah, and the Pistons are dog shit.
And they're horrible now.
They're terrible.
And so I know the Lions fans have been dying for it. You had guys like Calvin Johnson, who apparently, didn't feel like he was appreciated enough by the Lions. You had Barry Sanders leave early too. So then you had the Matt Stafford deal, and you beat him at home. And now you're riding into the NFC Championship. I really do hope, because I hope the Lions end up winning it, man. I'd love to see them in a playoff and in the Super Bowl. I think that'd be great.
Can you imagine
the Eminem, dude? If Eminem does not bring out the Detroit Lions in the NFC Championship game. I will fucking ride, dude. You know what, dude? I'm a Lions fan now, dude. I will ride, dude. If Eminem does not bring the fucking Lions out on the field, the NFC Championship game,
I bet he does.
I'm done.
I want to see them advance to the Super Bowl to have a chance to win a world title. But more importantly, I want to see like the week of media leading up to the game, all the interviews, talking to Dan Campbell, all the videos and stuff that'll come out throughout training camp and through the season and all that stuff. People will be, no matter who they're playing, will be pulling for the, like, imagine if they go up against the Chiefs.
Yeah. Well, no.
What?
No. Hell no.
What?
We do not need the Chiefs to win this game. I cannot handle 2 weeks of media coverage.
That's true.
Of Taylor Swift and all the.
It'll be Eminem versus Taylor Swift.
Eminem versus
show.
What the? Tyler, get your ass on out of here. It's Slim Shady's turn, baby. Will the real Slim Shady please stand up?
It'll be a spectacle though.
It will
if they can make it and go through media coverage, like all the stories and things that'll come out about this team and the grit and all the stuff that they like to preach about. It'll be interesting.
It's crazy.
They'll have America back.
Speaking of Taylor Swift and the Kansas City Chiefs, they rolled into Buffalo last night and beat the Buffalo Bills at their home turf. First road playoff win for Patrick Mahomes. That was a big thing leading into there, but one of the things that I was telling guys is that, hey, listen, Patrick Mahomes has never lost a divisional playoff game. And it always seems like it comes down to the wire with these two teams. I think now this is our new Brady and Peyton Manning rivalry.
All right, so I got an opinion on that. I agree with you. I think that
I'm just saying from an AFC standpoint.
I think that Josh Allen is, everything that he's hyped up to be. But everybody's saying, is this really a rivalry because he doesn't win? He doesn't win the big games when it comes down to it. And
well, you come to think about it, I mean, neither did Peyton. Peyton
got him.
Peyton had one. He won one.
One big one. But Josh Allen, like I'll admit this, I had the Bills winning that game if Josh Allen didn't throw a pick.
Well, because you knew that was going to happen.
He didn't.
He didn't throw a pick.
He didn't throw a pick.
Oh,
he plays. Let me make sure, but I don't remember him throwing one. But he plays.
I was dazing in and out of sleep in that game.
No, he did not. He did not throw a pick.
I'm not even going to front. I was dazing in and out of sleep in that game last night. I was fucking killed.
He did not throw a pick, but he plays so aggressive, and that's what makes him so good. He's like, I'm going to throw this bomb.
That's the thing that I can't stand what people say about him is like, oh, his turnovers. Okay, you look back at the greatest quarterbacks, one of the greatest football throwers of all time, and some of their stats. You look at a guy like Brett Favre. Brett Favre probably still leads the league in NFL, or probably leads the NFL in interceptions thrown. Probably has to. I mean, then you look at
Eli's up there,
but you look at the touchdown to interception ratio. The guys that are throwing the most touchdowns are also most likely going to be in the top 3 of interceptions. You look at the top 3 NFL quarterbacks right now in the league that are top 3 in passing touchdowns. I would almost guarantee that if not all 3, at least 1 or 2 of the 3 are also in the top 3 of leading the NFL in interceptions. That's just how it goes. If you're wanting to make a play, you're going to have to take a risk. That's just how it goes. Now, obviously, am I sitting there saying or advocating for Josh Allen to throw in triple coverage? Absolutely not. But, there's going to be some times where you have to trust his rocket arm that he has on his shoulder and be able to fit that ball between 2 defenders. We've seen him do it. We've seen him throw it 70 yards in the air as well. It's just that sometimes, that's the way she goes.
Eli was 8th with 251. Brett, number 1, 336.
Yeah. The gunslinger.
Yeah. But Josh Allen, I hate that because he gets all the
hate, bad rap for it.
But he's got a cannon.
He's got a cannon, and the dude ran for 2 touchdowns.
Yeah, but I'm saying he's gonna take the reason that he's so good is because he takes those risky throws. And I mean, he had one that we would have been having an entirely different conversation today if he had completed the one to Stephon Diggs. If you were dozing in and out of sleep, you should look it up. He threw a bomb from the 20-yard line to the 20-yard line to Stephon Diggs and went right between his fingers.
Yeah.
Dropped it. And it was at the end of the game. There was several minutes left.
I think
he would have given him the lead.
Looking back at it, and I watched the highlights today, and this kind of goes back to what I said last week about about the college football playoff. I don't think that, like Alabama, I don't think that the Bills or the Chiefs won that game. Mm-hmm. I feel like the Bills lost that game.
Yeah.
Because of the missed field goal by Tyler Bass there late at the end. You had the fake punt with DeMar.
So I think I don't know. Again, if you were in and out of sleep, I don't know how much you saw of that. But supposedly the reason, and I saw it in the moment, but supposedly the reason that they checked to the fake was because the Chiefs only had 10 guys on the field. So they checked to a fake.
So they got beat with 10 dudes. That makes it even worse.
They checked to the fake and then got stopped.
That makes it even worse.
But so that mistake or coming up short, whatever you want to call it, the missed field goal, which I hate, it literally breaks my heart when kickers are judged off something like that. Because I mean, that is not an easy thing to do to begin with. Much less add in. I mean, dude, being a kicker in Buffalo with the cold and the conditions that they have to deal with.
That's like that ball was probably like kicking that
cement block,
literally kicking that bourbon barrel over there. Probably the same exact texture.
Dude. I hate it. I hate
because there's so many things that go on in up until that point that you could have done as a collective unit
to have won the game,
to avoid being in that situation.
But you also 100%. It's never 100% to blame on a kicker. Like he's one of the best kickers in the world. Hence his job as an NFL kicker.
But my thing is too though, like even with the fake field goal, or not the fake field goal, but even with the missed field goal, just going back to that punt, I'm sorry, but we'll go right back to the kick. But like, even though there was 10 dudes on the field, it was still 4th and like 4. It was 4th and 3, 4th and 4.
I think it was 6.
4th and 6. It wasn't like a 4th and 1 where you could just, fall forward for a yard. You're going to have to dial something up to get 5, 6 good fucking yards, and that's not good. That's so hard to do on a fake run.
6 yards on a fake, like you got to lay a couple blocks. You're not just going to break free. Like you got to hit somebody. Somebody's going to have to hit.
But the thing too is that going back to your kick and not taking anything away. Obviously, you're in the league there for a reason. An NFL kicker job. There's only 32 of those jobs.
Yeah, I don't want that job.
There's only 32 of those jobs in the world, bub.
I don't want that job.
It's just almost like a head coach. Your backup kicker is 9 times out of 10 going to be your punter or your long snapper. There's no such thing as a backup kicker.
Yeah.
So just like a head coach, there's 32 of those jobs in the world. There's 32 jobs in the NFL for a kicker.
It makes you appreciate guys like Justin Tucker and those kind of like they're remarkable at what they do. And I hate that this, like we mentioned this earlier, like when you talked about the fandom and stuff, I'm never going to be that hoorah, like live and die, breathe a team. I'm a fan of the sport. I'm a fan of the players. I know the struggle that athletes go through from a mental perspective and everything else. That kid deleted his social media today. He had to because he's getting bombarded. Yeah, because he's getting bombarded. But like, that's a human man who's providing for his family by doing a job, and he's doing it on.
Oh, dude, you know how many people that probably go, "You lost my fucking bet, dude."
But he's doing it on a like.
But here's the thing, people.
But hang on, we talked about how it's their job, right? Clock in, clock out.
Athletes don't give a fuck.
I'm saying he clocks in, he does his job. If those guys that are all bashing him on social media had
the opportunity,
had national television cameras in their face while they were doing their job.
12-degree weather.
I'm saying,
on the
regardless of what
cold,
they're like,
all game.
Maybe you're a who cares what you are? Like you're an accountant, right? And you it doesn't matter. The point is, their job just happens to be entertainment on national television, and therefore you care about it and you're invested in it, and you're breaking it down to every microscopic movement that they make and analyzing how they should have done better. It breaks my heart that dude, who's got to go home to his wife and kids. I don't know if he's married and has kids, but I'm saying he's got to go home to his family and deal with the emotion of not only having lost for his team, but the hatred and all the bullshit that he's getting thrown at him from the city and everything. And Buffalo fans are, passionate people, right? Obviously we know that about them. But it sucks because, I promise you nobody wanted to make that kick more than him.
He did.
Nobody. No. Like it's just it breaks my heart. But I love to see there's a flip side of that too though. You make that kick, you win a game on a last second field goal kick.
It's like
you're the king. But I wouldn't want the super back and forth because it's a rough way to make a living.
I don't know if this comparison will make sense to a lot of people. It just makes sense to me. A kicker is almost like a cop. You know what I'm saying? Like you need them And when they do a good job, you're glad they're the heroes, they're great. But, if something goes wrong or, they don't do their job right, then they're the most hated people on earth.
Yeah, it's a good comparison.
The same thing with an NFL kicker. Like if he makes the kick, he's the god, he's the GOAT, he's a legend, he's the hero.
Yeah.
If he misses it,
the whole game falls on his shoulders.
He has to lead to his social media because people are harped on him. That's fucking stupid. But
yeah.
Anyways, you were talking about how passionate fans at Buffalo were. That old boy Jason Kelce got to experience what it was like to join Bill's Mafia.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if you've seen it, but Jason Kelce had himself a day yesterday. It looks like if that's and he hasn't officially announced yet, but it seems like an indication of the day he had in Buffalo was that he's hanging up the cleats.
I'll give you something else that I heard. I don't know how true this is. I heard that they're retiring together.
I could see that. Because they were talking, because Travis Kelce has been talking about, what is he, 30? He's 35, 34?
Something like that, 36, I think.
You know what's even crazier? You know who's the same age as him? Gronk.
Oh.
That's crazy to think about.
Yeah.
That's insane. But yeah, Jason Kelce had himself a day watching little bro play up there in Buffalo.
Smashing beers, carrying fans up to meet Taylor.
Yeah, we have all that. Here's the day that Jason Kelce had with Bill's Mafia starting in the parking lot drinking out of a bowling ball. Yeah, there's a bowling ball. It looks like he's having a hell of a time.
Big old day.
It looks like he's having a hell of a time.
No shirt, all game.
And then you see him come over here. He jumps out of the suite down. He's hanging out with the fans.
Jumps where?
Jumps down to the fans.
Down?
They jumps down into the fans. And I want people to realize of how athletic this dude is. This dude's 36. He's got bad ankles, he's got bad shoulders, he's got bad knees. He's hammered drunk, shirtless, freezing his ass off in Tim's. That jump that he just made
pops right back up in there.
Dude, that's athletic as fuck, bro. And then
you might not like it, but this is peak masculinity.
Accept it. And then but then as like you're talking about, he's a dad, you know. So he comes down, as you see here, he takes the fan and show Taylor her sign that she made, and that's great, man. At the end of the day, like,
gotta love that
dude,
man.
And then here at the end, you see the big Yeti roar when little brother scored there in the end zone. If you gotta love that guy, man. I mean, he's literally embodied what the city of Philadelphia is, and I think that's why he'll be one of the most remembered and loved players to ever come through Philly. I mean, you look at Philly sports figures that people really gravitate toward, especially from the Eagles side thing. Now, I'm not an Eagles fan, obviously, but I've talked to a lot of Eagles fans, and I've talked about, who's the one guy, and everybody either says Jason Kelce or Brian Dawkins, just because of the way that they play, the way they care about the Philadelphia organization, the way they care about the fans, the way that they care about people in general off the field as well, ultimately is what makes him the most loved, or one of the most loved sports figures in Philadelphia sports history. So if this is it for Jason Kelce, man, you went out with a bang, brother. New Heights podcast will probably be there already is the biggest sports podcast in the world. They'll probably continue to do great at that. So, and if it does happen where they retire together, man, that'd be pretty fucking cool.
Well,
that'd be pretty fucking cool.
It would be. Here's a great transition then. If they retire together this year, will it be on the back of a Super Bowl ring for Travis?
Ultimately, I think that would be if they do have this plan. Like, hey, if I win this Super Bowl, or if one of us wins a Super Bowl, like, we'll retire together. I think there would have to be a deeper conversation if they didn't win the Super Bowl. More so on Travis's side, just because I think Jason's 3 years older or in the league longer, 2 or 3 years longer than Travis. At the end of the day, Travis will just have to reevaluate of like, does he still feel good? Does the daily grind of, waking up and going through a training camp and going through off-season workouts and all that stuff, is it still worth it to me? And I ultimately, I don't know, obviously don't know Travis Kelce from Shaola, but he looks healthy to me. I mean, he looks like he could still go out there and play. Now, I don't know what he battles with off the field. Athletes deal with stuff that, people don't tell him anybody.
Especially now,
just because he's under everybody's business.
I mean, because of the extra microscope that's on him because of the Taylor thing.
Yeah, I know you had to bring that up, but
I'm just saying, it's true.
I know, but but we'll see. But That's the divisional
So, hang
round.
on, who are you taking?
That's what I'm getting into.
Okay,
Championship.
all
We're
right,
previewing
okay,
Championship
okay,
Sunday,
okay,
dude.
all right.
Damn, Brandon told us not to go 3 hours, and here we are. But we got the Lions, and we got. I was going to have you like chime in. You know, I've been talking most of this whole entire.
Lions and Niners.
Okay, Lions and Niners. We have Ravens.
Chiefs and Ravens.
Chiefs and Ravens. Who are you taking? At Baltimore. At Detroit.
No, it's not at Detroit. It's in San Francisco.
In San Francisco.
Yeah.
Right.
My
bad.
I really, really like this Detroit team. Like,
I do too.
I think that they're. I mean, I don't not to literally reiterate their mantra, but grit. Like, this team is not going to go down without a fight, and I think the Niners are a damn good team. I've thought they were probably a favorite for the Super Bowl for the majority of the season. Obviously, the way Brock Purdy's playing, he's in an MVP conversation. The way Christian McCaffrey was playing, he was in an MVP conversation. They can score in so many different ways. I feel like it would be stupid of me to bet against Detroit in this game.
I'm gonna piggyback that with you. I think Detroit's the hot team right now. I think that even so that the Niners, I feel like they survived against Green Bay. You survived against the youngest NFL roster to make the playoffs in history. What does that say about you leading going into a championship game with the possibility of not having one of your elite weapons on offense in Deebo Samuel? So where does that leave you if, one, Deebo can't go, and two, you're going up against a Lions team that's been red hot and with a defense that could come after your ass with an offense that could put the ball in the air and put up points on the board.
I haven't seen a line from this game yet, but I'll say this:
it's Lions. It's Lions 6.5. I saw it today.
Is it really?
Lions plus 6.5.
Okay,
Lions plus 6, and I hammered it.
I am not going to be the guy that bets on the Niners and then when the Lions win, say, I knew it. Yeah. I'm not going to do that.
No, I'm betting the Lions on that one because they got the momentum, they got the fire, they have the energy and the passion, and they had that brotherhood in that locker room, I think. You got athletes all across the board. Amon-Ra St. Brown, you got a two-headed monster in the backfield with David Montgomery and Jameer Gibbs.
Aiden Hutchinson.
You got Aiden Hutchinson on the defense. You got Josh Paschal. Shout out that boy Josh Paschal playing in the NFC Championship. Quentin Bohanna, another UK cat playing in the NFC Championship. You got Goff, who's really came into his own since he got into Detroit. And like what Campbell said, you are fucking good enough for Detroit. You damn right. I mean, he's played his ass off this year, especially into this playoff run. You look especially on another thing on the defensive too. You got a front seven, not only just in Aiden Hutchinson, but you got an inside linebacking core who ultimately won that game with a pick against the Bucs last week that can cover and can also rush the quarterback. So, and then, you look on the offensive side of things as well, like we're talking about with David Montgomery and Jameer Gibbs being a two-headed monster out there. You also got a guy in Sam Laporta who, hands down, is probably one of the best tight ends in the game right now that we could say. Shout out Sam Laporta for helped me hit my 6-leg parlay. But yeah, I might have to go with Detroit too, man. I think that we take Detroit. We take Detroit.
Then Phoenix in Baltimore.
Phoenix and Baltimore.
I'm sorry, not Phoenix. Kansas City
in Baltimore. This is just I'm going to take the Niners, or not the Niners. I'm going to take the Ravens in this one. I think they're the hot team. I think that they play terrific at home. I think that Lamar Jackson and that bunch can be able to scheme around Nick Bosa and that pass rush that they have. Ultimately, if you get a guy like Mark Andrews back, that ultimately opens up your offense drastically. And then hopefully you get a guy back in Marlon Humphrey who was a big key to your defense. And so you have him over there helping out with Patrick Queen and those guys. I think that you can see the Ravens make a run at this and ultimately take it to the Super Bowl.
Did you see the line on this game?
2.5 Ravens.
To the Ravens?
Yep. Ravens 2.5.
I'm actually surprised they're favored.
Well, they're the home team and they're the hot team coming in. Yeah. Even though the Chiefs did go on the road and win.
I don't think I'm betting against the Chiefs.
Yeah.
Lamar is special. They can another team that can kill you in many different ways. I think I'm going to take the Chiefs.
Okay, so you're going with the Chiefs. I'm going with the Ravens, and so but we do have the Ravens win the NFC. Yes. We have the Lions win the NFC, so that's good. One last thing here I want to talk about before we wrap it up. Big shout out again to Sam and Beau for coming on. We've talked about Kentucky basketball. We've talked about the divisional round. We've talked about NIL. We've talked about college football. One thing I want to talk about here real quick is NFL coaching what's going on there, obviously, with some vacancies and some interviews going on. Jim Harbaugh, who actually we have a clip that I want to show real quick. I think Jim Harbaugh is ultimately gone from Michigan, especially with the stuff that's going to be coming down from the pipeline from the NCAA and the Big Ten with all this stuff. And actually, I believe, and I could be wrong, but I think I read something today where he has asked for immunity for potential future allegations / misdoings from the Michigan football program. So that tells me that he's probably going. But this interview here with my boy John Root tells me exactly that he's probably leaving for the NFL. So here is Coach Jim Harbaugh.
Well, first off, congrats on the Natty Championship. How does it feel, and what have you been doing ever since that?
Oh, it's been incredible. Just back to work, getting ready for the next season. There's a passing of the torch that's awesome, and just incredible to be here today and see the testimony of so many that are here.
Yeah, so I think right there with that answer, he said that there's going to be a passing of the torch. Ultimately, that just screams like, if you're going to be passing the torch to somebody, you're on to bigger and better things. So Jim Harbaugh's interviewed with the Falcons and
twice with the Falcons.
Twice with the Falcons and once with the Chargers. Ultimately, I think San Diego, LA would be the best place for him. One, it's kind of like Michigan.
Yeah.
He's going back to a team he played for. He's got a young quarterback in Justin Herbert that he can build around. He's got weapons out there that he can build around in the receiving core and the running back room. He's got a stouted defense and a lot to build off on. So to me, I think the best decision for, and I can't say what his best decision is, but looking from a fan perspective and looking at what he can do with an offense, especially young talented quarterbacks. I mean, he's got a great track record of working with those. I think ultimately LA is going to be a good landing spot for him. Moving down, we have Dan Quinn, defense coordinator from the Dallas Cowboys. I've seen the Washington Commanders. I've seen potential interviews with the Falcons and the Chargers as well. I'd say everybody's interviewing with everybody, But then you got Mike Vrabel, who I thought was going to be a lead candidate for the Patriots job. Obviously, they hire within. So now Mike Vrabel is now on the free market for a head coach position. To me, he's interviewed with the Chargers and the Falcons. I don't know exactly where he may end up. Maybe it's something to where he takes a year off and enjoys himself because I don't think he would want to go be a coordinator somewhere. Or maybe he does. Who knows? But
and then you got Bill.
Yeah, but then you got Bill Belichick wrapping everything up. 2 interviews with Atlanta. And that's one thing I want to talk about here real quick before we end here, because we talked about it before the show. It seems like, Bill Belichick may not be the guy at all. And it seems like as this process continues, it seems to be more like they're tending to go away from Belichick entirely. Mm-hmm. To me, and I think the reasoning why that's happening is because you look at what's happened in New England since the departure of Tom Brady. And I think that the Patriot way that Patriots fans knew, that football fans knew to be, was only a certain era because you had a certain group of individuals that could buy into that kind of culture. And ultimately, the coaching tree from Bill Belichick has been horrendous when these guys get opportunities elsewhere to be a head coach. I mean, you just see Josh McDaniels, basically just get laughed out of the building in Las Vegas this year. There's so many fucking teams changing. I can't keep up with it. I'm old school. But I just think that they're looking at it from a lens of, okay, we've seen what you've been able to do with a young quarterback in Mac Jones the last couple of years. It's not panned out the way it's panned out with Brady. Let's look back at who you had as a core leadership group on that team that made the Patriot way the Patriot way. You guys had guys like Teddy Bruschi, Tom Brady, list goes on and on. And I think that the reason why you had that is because there was a certain mindset of those guys. And the game has changed. Players have changed. Mindsets have changed. You see a guy like a Mike McDaniels now wearing fucking capris out there, potentially taking, drags of the pen out there on the sideline. So you've seen it in other cultures of coaches try to come in and install the Patriot way, and it just goes completely south. Like, it cannot work. So ultimately, I think that, NFL owners are looking at it like, hey, maybe it's time for, some new blood, or a coach that's familiar with new blood tactics, and not just so zoned in on the Patriot way and bring it to Atlanta and trying to make it the Falcon way. I just don't see that happening anymore.
It might be a bit of an archaic approach.
Yeah.
As we talked about early on in the
because
in the
at the end of the day, you want to guys want to play for coaches that you can have a conversation with, that you don't have fear, that doesn't have that intimidating persona about them.
You also, on top of everything you're saying, a lot of that success was not only the personnel in the locker room and the coaching tree, but you're talking about Bill Belichick with his defensive mind and Tom Brady with his
just being able to game plan around the video of them game planning around Ed Reed together and them just working great together. Ultimately, I think that the Patriot way wouldn't have worked if Bill didn't have Tom and if Tom didn't have Bill.
100%.
And so I think you're seeing that now. And I think that's ultimately what's coming to fruition is that, maybe it wasn't just Bill Belichick. Maybe it was Tom Brady. Maybe it was Julian Edelman. Maybe it was Gronk. Maybe it was, Danny Amendola. Maybe it was, all these guys that they had on stud defense when they were winning Super Bowls. Maybe it was those guys. And Belichick obviously had the culture installed, but ultimately, Belichick wasn't out there taking 3-step drops or, running post routes. So ultimately, I think that, there's so many great candidates out there. And it sucks to see a guy like Bill Belichick, who's obviously hands down the greatest general manager of all time in NFL, hands down the greatest coach to ever coach in NFL. But there's just certain times when the game develops and when the game changes to where, that certain way of coaching or that certain culture in a building is just not going to work anymore. So, you got guys like Dan Quinn, you got guys like Jim Harbaugh, you got guys like Mike Vrabel who have been around the game, and ultimately Vrabel came from the Patriot way, but you saw how he didn't try to implement that exact way in Tennessee. Now, have they had any type of success that's even been close to what the Patriots have had during those Patriot way days? No, they haven't, but they're not the first or second round pick of the NFL draft anymore either. So but
it's going to be an interesting couple of months with the shakeups after the Super Bowl after we get through that.
Yeah, because I know that there's some teams that are still have to wait to grant permission to interview coordinators from teams that are still in the playoffs.
Still in the play. Yeah.
So we'll see how it all shakes up. But this one ran a little longer than expected. Sorry about that. So if you watched all the way up until this point, you're a real one. We appreciate you. We love you. We'll be back next week. We'll be talking about the NFC AFC Championship game. Kentucky's got a couple games.
Couple road games,
and there'll be probably some head coaching vacancies filled. There'll be some movement around, I'm sure, college football as well.
Hopefully we got some good wins to talk about for Kentucky basketball and preview what's going to be one hell of a home stint with Florida and Tennessee coming to town. So it's going to be a good week next week.
Should be a good week.
And it's going to warm up a little bit, I think.
Thank fucking Christ, dude.
It's going to warm up.
It's 40. It was 46 when I pulled out here. I about took my hoodie off, bro.
Yeah. Well, it's not 46 now.
Well, it's not. I'm going to freeze my ass off when I walk out of my truck. But yeah, for people that don't know, we've been dealing with some snow here in Lexington for the past week, and it's not been good. So
I think everywhere's dealing with snow.
Yeah,
right
well, if you're in the eastern part of the state, northeast, obviously, yeah, we've all been dealing with some snow.
Yeah.
So, but appreciate you guys tuning in. You're real ones. We appreciate and love every single one of you. Tune back next time. Say something nice to somebody. It could change their life forever. Goodbye.